Now, what impact does this change have on the required skills? For me, digital transformation really is the change in the behavior of people. Many people talk about technology and say, okay, it's the technology that actually leads the change or leads to digital transformation. I kind of agree in the fact that technology is a necessity to become digital, but I think the most important driving force is really individual behavior. So I have a blog called The Digital Transformation Insider, and I talked to the vice president of SAP for cloud. And he was talking all about these technological components that are important to drive a shift towards digital. And I agree they do. But I think that it's people who change the technology that matters more than technology changing people. So you might have heard of those segments: digital natives, digital immigrants. I consider myself to be a digital immigrant, so basically I adopt very early. I love to play with new technology. I was the first one to have a navigation device many, many years ago with tons of cables in my car. And there are other segments that are probably not as known. They're the voyeurs, the people who watch but don't act necessarily. They're the holdouts, the people who oppose against digitalization. They're the disengaged, like my mother or my father, who just say, okay, enough, email, that's it. And there are the digitally balanced, who are somewhere between the immigrants and the voyeurs. So this is a new way of thinking about your employees and about customers. In the past, many people just thought about employees and customers. But nowadays, I think it's very important to also think about the partners, because to stay competitive, it will be an imperative to do open innovation. And for open innovation, you need to have co-opetition with competitors. You have to have co-opetition with people from other industries. And therefore, this perspective and this digitalization-based perspective on people and their maturity for digital is key to me to add to the way that we look at our employees and at basically all the stakeholders we work with. Now, I had a couple of funny experiences with digital natives in the last couple of years, and I want to just share one or two with them. I received an email from an 18-year-old lady applying for a job, fine, and that lady sent her CV and an email text, but she sent it to 20 companies. All 20 companies in the to field, so everyone could see who was on copy. Okay, I thought, courageous, good, good. But she's young, I'll give her a feedback, and I'll ask her why she actually wanted to apply with For Advice. So we had an email conversation, and I said, gently, okay, probably not at For Advice. And then 2 weeks later, she sent me an email saying, look, I've got a job. So there must have been a clever HR guy somewhere who has actually been more clever than I was at the time, saying, hey, this is a digital native. She does one thing that all those young people do, one-to-many communication. They don't do bidirectional email. Focus groups like Axel Springer Verlag, the largest German publisher, they happen in Facebook with digital natives now. They don't exchange information by email anymore. And so the patterns of communication and the patterns of learning have changed. And I believe that it's a great opportunity for the HR function to take that development on and leverage it and translate it into great innovative services to come into a leadership role inside the corporation. Another example, my wife came home from work and she was devastated. She said, oh, my boss, great guy, proven leader, everything, he's hired this lady as his personal assistant. We've got so many competent people. She doesn't know a thing. She's completely incompetent in the business that we do. She doesn't have a clue about our core competencies in procurement. And why did he hire her? And no one understood. Apparently all the direct reports The assistants, the 50 years old assistants who do the administration, no one understood, and everyone said, oh my God. 2 weeks later, she spoke to him in a one-to-one, and she asked him, and he said to her, you know, she's 23, I know she doesn't know a thing, but I want to have someone close to me so I understand how they think. So I understand how our future buyers think. And I find that's pretty clever. From that standpoint, of course, she has to have some competencies, and she will have had. But the traditional way of thinking for recruiting this person did not apply, and I want to encourage you to consider going a different way when you're recruiting, in one way or the other. So what's the impact, not only on the skills that you require, but on HR? I believe that it's a true game changer, and that not only the players have changed, as we've seen, but also the pitch has changed. In order to be successful in digitalization, as I said before, I believe that no big corporation will be that agile that it can avoid doing open innovation, that it can avoid collaborating with little startups, or at least having their own incubator. So things do change. The pitch has changed. The football pitch you play on has changed, not only the players. So what does this translate into? Basically, it means offer is changing dramatically of the people that you can hire, recruit, work with, and the demand is changing as well, because you will require new digital skills. And I'll give you an example from a project in a moment on what those are. So if both sides change, of course, it's a tsunami of change. It's not just incremental change. And it's not very clear in which direction this will impact the HR function, but I believe it will impact. Now, one of those ambiguities of life is that people see things, but they don't act. It's a very good example. 90% of companies have said in a survey of the European SchoolNet, yeah, we require more digital skills. But only 46% invest. That's only every second person of those. And only 30% use innovative methods to source people. And we'll have a big shortage. So how can you bridge that gap? Just a couple of examples. P&G wanted to get better in online marketing, so they did an employee exchange program with Google to increase their own marketing and sales capabilities in the digital world. L'Oreal did gamified recruiting. We have a speak on gamification in a moment. Boehringer Ingelheim and Kaggle did collaborate in order to predictive models for clinical research, and so on and so on and so on. You can go on YouTube, you can find those videos about that. I can provide you with the links. You can actually go for this for hours and find great examples of open innovation. But how does this translate into what you can do? I think learning environment is one point. How do people learn? Do you send them to classrooms with a teacher at the moment, face-to-face trainings? Who does that? Who does blended learning? Video tutorials, webinars? Okay. So there is a mix, and I think it will mix further. So we will not have this four-wall classroom in the future, but we will have a mixture, because the consumption pattern of content has changed, and therefore you will have to adapt to what the digital natives require. First thing, provide the right learning environment. Second thing, skill management. We've done a project not for the company that produces this car, but for another large German premium automotive OEM for 3 years. And we've established skill management. So we standardized the frameworks from Excel to proper software. We've clearly defined the organization to handle skill management and the demand management for trainings to save cost, harmonize qualification planning, and we try to make best use of optimized technology, for example, in the new ways that Classroom works. I think that skill management, given that you need new skills and that there's higher dynamic, is a prerequisite. Third point, enhance your employer branding. You've seen the employer branding slide in the video that Sylvia showed before. I don't think that it makes sense to let go of your core competencies and to copy Google or Facebook. Be yourself, concentrate on your core competencies, and complement them with digital stuff. Be attractive for the talent you've got, and attract new talent from the outside. Fourth, to become more innovative, it's not just about working on the symptoms, like, ooh, I've got 5 products only, so 5% of my whole product portfolio is younger than 5 years. So I just release products, I will just decide to release 5 products in the next quarter to have a higher percentage, and then those products will fail. No, that won't work, working on symptoms. What really is important, to enable your organization to learn, to practice, in order to, in the end, live, breathe innovation. So to overcome those deep-rooted barriers, we're working with Fran Chuan, who's somewhere here. Fran, where are you? There you are. He's based in Barcelona, so we've got a special link to Barcelona as well. And Fran has developed with the Babson College in the US a special methodology in order to assess the root causes why people or organizations are not as innovative as they could be. It's about those 6 blocks that you can see next to the brain, resources, processes, and so on. And it's a holistic approach. And we apply that, and we do 4 different types of things. We do leadership workshops, assessments, benchmarks, Lighthouse Project. We've got more than 200 companies who've done this assessment. So the benchmarks are a pretty smart way, usually, to convince top management that something has to be done and something has to be changed. So if you take, for instance, the example of the German automotive OEM again, they were lacking the skills in electronics. Electronics today is about 30% of the value of a car or the cost of a car. In 2020, it will already be 50%. And if you don't want all that value to go to your suppliers, of course, you will have to have that in your company, and you have to build those skills to be better in electronics in cars. It's just one example for the skills you need to build. So, last slide, last page. 5 key takeaways. Keep doing what works, concentrate on your core competencies, because you will not overtake Google or Amazon on the right lane, but use digitalization where you can. Drop your ego. It's not just the applicant who applies for a job with you who has to change his behavior or her behavior. You have to change your behavior as well in order to get the most out of the digital natives that are entering or have already entered, of course, the workplace. And, oops, that's afterwards. Focus on both. Development of skills of own employees as well as recruiting new talent, because we all know hiring new talent is more expensive than keeping your talent. So provide the right level to those 2 target groups. Let your HR function champion the digital transformation. I think it's a great opportunity to reposition or enhance the positioning of the HR function in the corporation. Identify the innovation barriers, so you're more innovative, you've got a better employer branding, and you will attract the talent that you seek. So, if you take one thing back home from these 20 minutes, I would love it if it was that digital transformation that's on the way is a great opportunity for the HR function to lead the digital way and not follow, just like Arno does, 5 years old.